Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some things just stick in your brain better than others, even when you are trying your hardest to remember them? This new study dives deep into that question. So what is going on here? Basically, scientists have known for a while that our brains are better at remembering things that make sense, like faces or familiar objects, compared to random patterns or colors. But there is a big debate. Is this because our brain is actively working harder to store these meaningful things in the moment, or are we actually just using old memories from the past to help us out? This research team wanted to figure that out. Think about it this way. Imagine you are trying to remember a list of words. If those words are all random letters, it is tough. But if they're words like dog, house, and happy, your brain can connect them to things you already know. This is the meaningfulness advantage. The question is whether this advantage is happening right now in your working memory, or if it is like pulling out an old file folder from long-term memory to help you with the current task. To test this, they used a clever trick called proactive interference. This happens when old memories start messing with your ability to learn new things. Imagine you are learning new phone numbers. If you've had a lot of old phone numbers to remember, those old numbers might pop into your head when you are trying to memorize a new one. The more you repeat things, the more likely you are to have this kind of interference. The researchers created experiments where some things were repeated a lot and some were shown only once. They reasoned that if the meaningfulness advantage was due to using old durable memories, then repeating things should make that advantage disappear, or at least get smaller because the old memories would start to interfere, but that is not what they found. They used ambiguous images, like faces that might or might not look like faces depending on how you looked at them. They also used scrambled versions of these images. This way, they could see if people recognized the images as meaningful. They had participants try to remember these images. In their first two experiments, they showed people sets of images, some of which could be seen as meaningful like faces or objects, and some were just scrambled versions of those same images. They then tested how well people remembered them. They had a high interference condition where a small set of images was repeated many times, and a low interference condition where they used a much larger set of images, so repetition was minimal. What they discovered was pretty striking. Even when things were repeated a lot, and even when there was a lot of proactive interference, people were still much better at remembering the images they recognized as meaningful. This happened both with faces and with objects. And here is the key part: the benefit for meaningful items didn't shrink when there was a lot of repetition. It stayed strong. This tells us that people weren't relying on those old durable memories from previous trials. Instead, it suggests they were actively storing the meaningful information in their working memory right then and there. They also found that it wasn't just the physical image, but whether the person saw it as meaningful that mattered. If someone recognized an ambiguous face as a face, they remembered it better than if they didn't. This highlights the role of our own perception and what we bring to the table. Now, you might be thinking, what about proactive interference? Didn't they say it was a trick? Well, they did induce some interference, especially in a later experiment where they changed how the items were presented. In experiment 3, they changed the game. Instead of showing images all at once in different spots, they showed them one after another in the same spot. This makes it much harder to tell things apart based on location, and it really cranks up the proactive interference. It is like trying to remember a sequence of sounds without being able to see where they're coming from. Even with this heavy interference, the meaningfulness advantage held strong. People still remembered the meaningful things better. This is a really important finding because it strongly suggests that the benefit isn't coming from just pulling up old memories. It is about how our brains actively process and hold on to meaningful information in the moment. So, what does this all mean for us? It means that when information makes sense to us, our brains are better equipped to hold on to it in our working memory, regardless of how much old similar information we've had to deal with. It is not about being a memory whiz who can recall every single past event. It's about how our existing knowledge and understanding help us process and retain new information. This also aligns with findings from brain imaging studies, which show that when we're looking at meaningful things, certain brain areas involved in active memory storage are more engaged. It is like our brain is putting in more active effort to keep that meaningful stuff in mind. Now, the study did have a few interesting nuances. In some cases, repeating images actually made performance a bit better overall, not worse. The researchers think this might be because the repeated images became more familiar, which can also give a little memory boost, independent of whether they were seen as meaningful. It is like getting a warm, fuzzy feeling from something you've seen before. One limitation to consider is that they used ambiguous stimuli. While this was key to their design, in real life, we often encounter things that are clearly meaningful. Future research could explore if this active storage advantage applies to even more complex everyday scenarios. Also, they asked participants to report how many items they saw as meaningful at the end of each trial. While this was done consistently, it is possible that just thinking about meaning might have encouraged people to pay more attention to those items. So, the big takeaway is that our brains are wired to leverage meaning for better working memory. It's not just about how often we see something, but how much sense it makes to us. This suggests that when you're trying to learn something new, connecting it to what you already know, making it meaningful, is a super effective strategy. It means that understanding is key to remembering. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more explorations into the amazing world of psychology. Until next time, keep your mind curious.